um, between you two. So, Sol, as I understand it, you were arguing that as opposed to Gaolang's blows increasing in speed, the reason he was able to tag Carlos was just because he was recognizing the pattern of his movements, right?
Yeah, and I said I could post panels for that, but this nigga never really answered the panels. Arrow, you want the panels?
I mean, we both agreed that he dodged some of the blows.
Yeah, but I'm stating exactly. Carlos dodged some of the blows, all right?
Right.
And exactly, and you're arguing that's due to the fact that Gaolang wasn't throwing the blows as fast as he could at this point. He just got faster later on in the fight.
But because it straight up says your jabs are light speed, and then it says he threw a punch that surpassed light. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's not like there's nothing but I hear what you're about to say. But if one says his fastest blow in boxing is the jab, is this speed, and then he throws a punch, a right straight, that is faster than that, how are you saying that he's not throwing a faster blow?
Yeah, I think that's exactly. So I don't think that's necessary. I think the right jab specifically where it says it's enters the divine like the God go. I don't know if that's necessarily faster than the jab because the jab is also able to tag and blitz Carlos, and we see verbatim on panel that like he gets blitzed by when it's talking about like the faster pre-initiative shit. So we can blitz this nigga with his jabs.
Right, but he says the way that he stops Carlos's pre-initiative isn't by figuring out the pre-initiative; it's by blitzing him. Like everything you're saying just goes against what's on the page. But it just sounds like you're just like it's just fan fiction. Like it doesn't matter what you think about how he countered it because I'm telling you how he countered it. He increased his speed. Well, how can you prove that? Well, Gaolang says that he just struck quicker. Like he punched faster than his opponent could predict, and Carlos is able to predict the flash. So Carlos is able to predict the flash, and then he starts throwing punches that he can't predict, which means what? Those punches must have been what?
Yeah, I'm saying that he recognized this nigga's patterns of movements, which is why now he's able to tag him. I'm saying the speed. I'm specifically saying the speed within the blows themselves, like those specific blows did not change. I think the jab he threw earlier was the same as the jab he threw now, and then the right straight he threw earlier was as fast as the right straight he threw now. There could be differences between the jab and the right straight, but within themselves, I don't think they changed across the fight. And I'm saying the specific reason as to why he hit this nigga, was yes, he struck faster than pre-initiative. But the only issue is, of course, he still has to throw punches in this nigga's direction that hit him. Like you can be faster than Carlos's pre-initiative, but if the punches aren't thrown in his direction, it doesn't matter. They're not gonna hit him. And then I asked you if you wanted me to provide panels for that. Like I can go provide panels because I think I have the preponderance.
You can provide panels. I don't care. Like we're agreeing on things happening. You can post the panels. Then I'm so confident at this point we can just fucking conclude on it. I've already addressed everything you're saying. You're just saying nonsense. Post the panels if you think it's important.
Cool.
Like I'm so nonplussed.
Let's see. I'm gonna post all of them. So do you think he started throwing faster blows like after he initially hit that, like after he started hit, like when he first hit that nigga with that jab that shown on like the strike faster than pre-initiative panel?
I think he just constantly changed the speed of his blows throughout.
Wait, so
that's why he can dodge some blows and he can't dodge others. That's why there are some blows. That's why there are some blows that are literally undodgeable for Carlos.
Like what?
Like the God Glow. The God Glow is said to be undodgeable.
And the God Glow is like the divine right.
The right straight. Yeah, the right straight that blitzes Carlos. Yes. So he can just throw blows that are undodgeable to people like Carlos. Yes, who have pre-initiative and fucking speed faster than fucking Lolong's fastest blows. Yes.
Yeah, I think that can just be argued from Carlos's condition. But before we get to that, I just want to go over this real quick. So we see even in the later part of the fight, when after this nigga, like the first time he hits him, so obviously he would have sped up at this point. This nigga, Carlos can still dodge some of his blows. And we also have the panel where he's able to attack Carlos with that, where he's able to like hook this nigga in the stomach. And he's like, oh, I thought I told you, I figured out your moves. And then it's even stated that as long as he can read Carlos, he can hit this nigga. So your argument of the speed changing doesn't seem to be substantiated in any way. You're just saying, okay, he blitzed him at this point, but he wasn't blitzing him earlier. And I'm saying, yeah, he didn't blitz him earlier specifically, but that's only because he did not know where this nigga was going to go. And as soon as he figures out where he's going to go, those high speed punches that can already blitz him can be thrown in his direction. So let me go ahead and drop the fucking where he talks about the variety of his moves, and then one last
You're literally go ahead, bro. Keep on. You got it. This is so nonsense, bro.
Okay. So yeah, basically what Arrow's saying is Carlos can just Gowling is just changing the speed of his punches throughout the fight, which is why he can dodge some of the others. I'm saying that's not necessarily the case. The punches themselves may differ in speed, but I don't think he's changing the speed of those punches. So for example, I think his right straight and his jab are at two different speeds themselves, but I don't think he's making his right straight slower or his jab slower at any moment. It's the fact that he recognizes his movements, and I think there's way more evidence to it. So for the first panel, of course, he says, I figured out your moves when he finally taxed this nigga. And then on the second panel, he said, just like I thought, he doesn't have as much variety in his moves as boxing. So of course, it's less harder to deal with since he's not changing as much. He can recognize his moves easier. This panel is to show later on in the fight, even after Arrow claims he is specifically sped up, that Carlos can still dodge some of his blows, which wouldn't make sense if he's just like at blitzing speed with these punches since he's sped up. And then the bottom panel just blatantly states, I can read you. Gowling's jabs just landed for the first time. And he specifically states, I can read you with this. So it's not like, oh, I decided I'm going all out. I'm serious now. I can read you. And then that's when this jab hits. So are you ready to conclude on the point?
Yep.
Okay. You can go ahead.
In conclusion, I proved that Mendel is faster than Gowlang's jab. And then I proved that Gowlang's jab is able to later hit Carlos. I proved that his initial jab is at the speed of light, which is the little hyperbole connotation that they give for each other. And then he throws a right straight that surpasses light. And then he throws a jab that also surpasses light, the one that we were talking about that blitzes his pre-initiative. So we see his jab move at light speed and then move so fast it blitzes Carlos, who moves faster than light. Then we see his rights go from being dodged by Carlos by moving so fast that they become undodgeable. It's just blatant evidence that his moves are becoming faster. Even my opponent says, well, now he knows where he's going to be, and this is the reason, and this is how he did it. None of that matters because he says, how is he landing those? He's arrived at the apex of dodging his opponent's movements. There's only one way to counter it, and that's to strike faster than your opponent's prediction. So on the page, it says Gowling doesn't know how to do that. Gowling counters by blitzing his opponent's prediction. So the thing that my opponent is arguing that Gowling is doing, Gowling says on the panel that we posted that he can't do that, and he's blitzing people. And that's why I think I won this point.
Okay, so I guess I can go ahead. Me and my opponent basically talked for a little bit about how Gowling's speed compares to Carlos's speed. Of course, I agree that Carlos had like faster travel speed. He asked me the question on like how they compare in overall speed. I didn't really know because I don't know. Like I can't compare specifically how much greater Carlos's is in travel speed to like a Gowling striking speed relative to Carlos's speed. But my opponent simply tried to argue that Gowling was changing the speed of his strikes later on in the fight. So essentially, like let's just say he had a jab that he threw at 35 miles per hour. He's now throwing it at 50. Let's just say he had a straight that he was throwing at 35 miles per hour. He's now throwing it at 50. And I say I don't think that's like necessarily what's happening. I think what's happening is he's now recognizing this nigga's pattern of movements. And then my evidence for that specifically was, when Gowling first hits this nigga with a jab, he doesn't state anything in regards to holding back in speed or getting faster in speed or saying I'm going to go all out now. He specifically states I can read. All right. So he strikes this nigga in the face for the first time, and then he tacks it to the fact that he can read him. And the panel was saying about that. He said, just like I thought, he doesn't have as much variety in his moves as his boxing. You were too arrogant, Mendel. This time is really over. So he thinks the fight is over once he recognizes the fact that he doesn't have as much variety in his moves. All right. And then we see in a panel above that, he's avoiding a clean hit. You got to be kidding me. And he's able to dodge in the later part of the fight when Gowling should have sped up because this is after he initially hit him. All right. And then, of course, I have a panel before that where Gaolang hits this nigga in his stomach, and he said, "I thought I told you. I figured out your move." We later get a statement on later on from Gaolang where he says, "But how is he landing those? He's arrived at the apex of dodging before his opponent's moves. There's only one way to counter that: to strike quicker than the opponent's prediction." So he's countering the pre-initiative specifically by striking quicker than his opponent's prediction. But it doesn't matter, all right? If he can't recognize this nigga's patterns of moves to see where he'll be or throw the punch accurately, all right? So my opponent's claim of this nigga just like changing speeds doesn't make sense. I have the preponderance of evidence, especially with Gaolang Tax reading moves and the patterns of moves onto what he's doing. Did he get faster? No. Did he start landing punches? Yes. Why was that? Due to the fact that he could read moves. His punches were already that fast. I get greater. You can judge.
Shall I judge right now who won the point? Or
yeah.
Okay. So the way I see it.
Hold on. Let me save it and record the thing again. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so the way I see it, I think this was pretty close. I think both of you had some. How do I say this? I think both of you had some valid points. And I think the crux of what this came down to is that Aero basically had the argument that Carlos earlier was able to dodge Gaolang's flash of his pre-initiative, but then later because he sped it up, he was blitzed. Whereas then you were arguing because Gaolang stated that the movements were read, that this was probably more so the reason, and because then Carlos is later able to dodge his attacks when they should have sped up, apparently. So I think this is a close one, right? I think both of you have valid points that are backed up by what the manga is saying. If I had to give an edge to anyone here, I think I would slightly favor Sol's point.
Okay.
Mainly because I find myself, in the context of this debate, right, listening to you two, more so agreeing with the many scans that were posted about him reading his movements. And I thought, given what Sol posted, in my personal opinion, I thought that the idea that Gaolang's blows were speeding up, but then slowing back down, or that some of his other blows were then so much slower that Carlos was able to easily avoid them to the point that Ohma was saying like he was far faster. I thought that seemed like a stretch in comparison to the consistent mentions of reading his moves that Sol pointed out.
Okay. So, Arrow, I guess we can move on with the speed scaling then.
So what does that mean? That his punches are what?
What?
Like how fast are the punches? Because they blitz him and they don't. So how fast going forward, if that is your judgment, what do I say about the punches? Because you gave me a conclusion. Sol's conclusion as the two of them are literally mutually exclusive, which is near impossible to figure out how to.
I mean, if I judge in favor of Sol, right, then we basically have to continue with Sol's conclusion.
And Sol's conclusion is that his punches are this fast always, but he just doesn't know the positioning. So what is that?
So
what is that?
Yeah. So hold on.
As I understand it, wait, Sol, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and you Arrow as well if you like perceive things differently. As I understand it, Sol's argument was that Carlos and Gaolang overall appear to be relative in speed, but that Gaolang was able to blitz him with his punches because he read his movements. Is that correct?
No. He agreed that the punches are always fast. Like that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make any sense. So wait. He said, or actually, yeah, you can go ahead and tell him what you said about the punches.
Yeah, so I agree that I think the punches are always that fast. It's just a matter of movements as to whether or not he can tag them. So it's like, I don't think the punches are getting any faster. This nigga's not getting any faster. Like, these punches just aren't faster than they were before.
Yeah, he thinks that they're always a blitz level above him, but he doesn't know where he's gonna be.
Of course, like I also brought up like agreeing to the relativity thing.
But you admitted that he's a blitz level above him.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a greater force. Tell me how you can push out. Wait. I'm talking to.
Hold on, I'm clarifying about my relativity thing.
Yeah,
but I was talking.
So,
go ahead.
Wait, because with
so the relativity
now, it sounds like you agree that Gaolang is a blitz tier above Carlos in striking speed.
Yeah, hold on. I agree that Gaolang can blitz Carlos, all right. But Arrow's specific argument was that this nigga was changing speed throughout, and I don't think that was the case. I think it was just a matter of movement. Yeah.
So you think
But
it's because
also,
he was reading his movements, not because of raw speed, basically.
He does think it's because of raw speed. He thinks
yeah, I
it's a
think it was
blitz.
because of raw speed. Well, not necessarily raw speed. I think it was just I don't specifically when hitting Carlos. It was.
Do you see how it doesn't make any
Hold on,
sense?
hold on. I'm not done. Let me explain. Specifically when trying to hit Carlos. All right, raw speed is not not the only thing that Gallon can do. Hypothetically, if Gallon moved the fact that he could recognize his patterns, I don't think he would be able to hit Carlos.
Okay, so let me just dumb this down, okay?
So I think it's
How
Gallon's
do you
speed in
how do you
addition.
think Gaolang and Carlos compare in raw speed? Because we need this moving forward.
Yeah, I think Gallon can blitz Carlos.
Okay, so
Okay.
then you would agree that Gaolang is a blitz tier above Carlos in raw speed.
Yeah, but my
Mhm.
point is he can't hit that nigga unless he recognizes his pattern of movement, regardless of the fact that he.
But you agree that his raw speed is a tier higher, right? So that's what we're
Well,
going with.
I think it's above. Yeah, I think he can blitz this nigga, but I just think he can't hit him unless he specifically recognizes his pattern.
Okay.
But
Can
also,
I just? I mean,
my
I
bad.
think Aero might be wanting to ask this as well, but can I just for my understanding moving forward, how is he incapable of hitting him if he's a blitz tier faster?
It doesn't make any
Yeah,
sense, does it?
he's incapable of hitting him due to how specifically that nigga moves. And also, like, we kind of see that shit earlier in Asha because Kano's formless style makes his movements so confusing that Galang
But
even
he
with
didn't
his
say this during. You didn't say that during. We've already
Oh no,
concluded that.
he's asking me to explain. Hold on. He's asking me
Okay.
to explain. I'm
Okay. You're
explaining.
adding
This
more
is
stuff to an argument.
I'm not adding more stuff to the argument, but he's asking me to explain specifically how this 1 = 1. It's just movements confuses niggas and makes niggas harder to hit. Like hypothetically, I said, let's just say Galang moves at this speed, but he's throwing it in this place and
Okay, so I
Carlos
think I
with it.
understand.
But he
Yeah.
never said that
But
in
if
the
Carlos,
debate for me to
hold on,
counter.
I did, hold on. I did say if Carlos ends up in a place and Galang can recognize, oh, he's going right, then he can just throw it there and hit him. But the issue is this nigga's movements. He just
But you're talking about like formless and tricky movements and shit. Of course
Yeah.
I didn't counter that because you didn't say it. I'm just like
None of this
that doesn't make any.
Okay.
I was doing that to give an example of what I gave in this fight. That's another example.
What we come away from here is
Gallon can't hit this nigga unless he knows his patterns.
okay, sure.
Yes, he's still at blitz
I
speed, but
agree
the
that Sol
movement.
won the point, so we go away with that, I guess. But Sol, you did agree that in terms of raw speed, Gaolang is a blitz tier above Carlos, right?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay,
That's
so
not
we're
the
rolling
issue.
with that. That's very
Also,
clear.
Okay.
yeah, hold
Gaolang is a
on.
blitz tier above Carlos in raw speed.
Okay.
Yeah, we
Sure.
also have to address that specific thing earlier. About like whether or not Gallon is faster than Ohma because you didn't really like say anything about that because
That's where we need to.
I gave my link to
be.
that already. I already finished. I gave my thoughts on that.
oh okay so
I talked about how fucking Lolong and Ohma's punches were relative to each other. And
yeah, but
Lolong's punches were
I'm talking about
slower
this
than his
nigga's
flash.
judgment. Like when his judgment includes that.
Oh, right. So the judgment now is that Gaolang is a blitz tier above Carlos in speed, but I agreed with Sol that, or rather, I concluded that I thought Sol's argument was more convincing. That the speed of Gaolang's blows didn't change, which would mean we're back at the conclusion that Gaolang and Lolong are.
No, that can't.
I mean, whatever. I mean, Aero's point was that Gaolang's flash would be over equals Lolong, right?
Yeah, but that's my point. That's why I want
and then
to
you agreed, Sol. You agreed, Sol, that well, rather, you stated that the speed of Gaolang's punches did not change. So because Aero
Yeah, hold on.
argue then that
I'm talking about my
train of thought.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So Aero was trying to argue, as I understand it, that the full speed of Gaolang's blows is far superior to his flash, which would mean he's actually far superior to Lolong in speed.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but I agreed with you in the end, or rather agreed with your conclusion, that the speed of Gaolang's blows did not change. Thus, we're back at Lolong over equals Gaolang, which you contested, if I remember correctly, or like somewhat contested.
So yeah, I contested. Arrow brought up the statement. Of it's saying that he might be on par. His speed might be on par with the Flash, and then he brought that up to say that Gaolang. That would mean that Gaolang is equal to or greater than Lolong. And I said doesn't necessarily mean that because it's just stating simply a possibility, and that possibility isn't. It doesn't contest Lolong being faster. So if I were to say Lolong is faster than Gaolang, that statement itself does not contest it. Nor does it stand like it doesn't entail what Arrow's claim it entails.
Wait, real quick. I'm not trying to be rude or anything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really not. But Greater Force, you said that you agree with Sol, and Sol agrees that Gaolang can blitz Carlos.
Yes.
We went over Carlos being faster, like far faster than the Flash. We went
but we're
over
talking
that.
about the
We
Lo
said
Long
that
Ohma gem.
but listen.
Mhm.
But listen, look at it. I'm not trying to be. I'm really not trying to be mean, but like
I'm
this
sorry.
is the scaling chain.
Yeah, that does seem to be a disconnect.
Wait,
But go on. I understand what you were going to say, but yeah, go on.
and then hold on.
What's the scale? Where are you dropping it?
I'm dropping it in scans.
Mhm.
That if the judgment is as you said, that's where the scaling chain comes out. But then you say the judgment at the very end is Lo Long relative to Gaolang. But Sol admitted that Gaolang blitzes Carlos. Period.
Okay.
He can't have blitzed him if the speeds of the punches don't change because the jabs are the speed of light and Carlos is faster than light. And then his punches go from being the speed of light to being stated surpassing light, but somehow the speed of the punches don't change.
Let's
How
state it
could
for the
something
hold
go
on.
from being speed of light to faster than light without changing?
Let's specifically state it for the God go. Regardless, I'm asking this nigga
No, I'm
about.
talking about the two jabs. One jab blitz Carlos, and one jab Carlos was like, I'm way faster than that. How could one jab be the speed of light and one jab be because I think you have to be thousands of times faster than someone to be able to blitz them. How could one punch be the speed of light, one punch be massively faster than light, but those two speeds are the same number? Like
Well, one metaphorically.
mathematically, that's impossible. But
Hold
and
on.
I'm really not trying to be a cunt. But like
Yeah,
you're
I'm
trying to
explaining.
convince me
I'm
that something
explaining.
mathematically impossible is the valid judgment to that point. If
But
Soul
I'm saying it's not
said,
mathematically
but okay,
impossible.
but I'm not. I didn't interrupt you. That's all I'm saying.
Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
You're trying to convince me, Greater Force, that Soul can say that Gowling can blitz Carlos with a jab. Those jabs were so slow that they weren't able to tag Carlos. And yet those jabs, the jab that blitz Carlos and the jab that can't touch Carlos are the same speed? Like Greater
Yes,
Force. You have
Sol
to.
argued. Yeah, let me explain. Yes, because Sol argued that the difference was because Gao Lang was able to read Carlos's movements and thus better respond to his speed, right, and tag him
But
in the
that's
process
not
of
what
that.
it says on the panel. On the panel, it says he struck so fast that Carlos couldn't react. And my opponent said, yes, I agree. We're already past the point where like you're not saying what's happened anymore. You've already agreed that he speed blitzed him. So you can't say that he didn't say that because we're past that. He did say that. So how can he say that one jab speed blitzed him and one jab couldn't touch him and they're the same speed? How are you saying that he won that point?
Yeah,
I'm genuinely asking.
I'm not saying that Carlos did not blitz this nigga, but my point is, all right. I'm not saying this, I'm saying the speed did not change. But the only reason why he hit this nigga later on was not due to a change in speed, was due to the fact that he recognized his pattern of movements, which is why I gave the example, i.e., let's just say Carlos is gonna move right, but Gallon doesn't know that. He throws that punch to the left, all right. It doesn't matter how fast this nigga is because the punch is going to the left. Rather than if he recognizes his pattern of movements, all right, and he sees a Carlos is going to move to the right, he can throw that blitz speed punch to the right and then therefore tag that. I never contradicted myself by arguing that he wasn't a blitz speed. But my point is, regardless of him being a blitz speed, he can recognize the pattern of movements to throw it at that nigga.
Okay, if you're a blitz
return
speed
to this
above,
Oh, yeah.
if you're a blitz speed above someone, how can they react fast enough to move their fucking head? I feel like I'm getting fucking domain expansion, infinite. Like I feel like you're fucking put me in the fucking prison realm. Like this doesn't make any. This is illogical. Like you're trying to convince me. In fact, stop. I hate to be this guy. Put that in the syllogism. Put P1 equals P2 equals C. I want to see it. I want to see how you. I want you to put it in a syllogism.
Yeah. Okay. So you want me to just put like a Gaolang, Stevas?
Yeah,
Okay.
no, just put P1, premise
Mhm.
1, premise 2 equals conclusion, and they all have to be true. Put
Okay.
it into a syllogism for me.
P1.
Because I want to prove to greater force that this like line of logic literally does not make any sense. Like I really don't understand like how he won the point.
This nigga, stop adding me in chat. I'm gonna block you. I swear to God. Hold on. So just like, oh, okay. So like P1, this is this. P1, this is this, and then therefore this leads to conclusion.
Yes,
Oh,
P1
okay.
talk about and therefore that leads to conclusion. And P1, all the P's have to be true.
Okay. Okay. Is this fine, or do you want me to like clarify it a little bit more? We still need also, Gator. We still need you to like clarify on that whole whether or not Gaolang is equal to or greater than Law Long. Like, what do you know? You think my counter was sufficient enough?
Okay, so no, like that doesn't lead to your premises don't lead to the conclusion that Carlos and Gal like low
I
long and
maybe
Gal.
typed it out wrong. Like, this is the first time I've done a
You
solution.
might have, bro. You might
Yeah,
have because
yeah. But like,
but I'm saying like there's no way. Like, let me just put this into perspective. Greater force. Are you still there?
oh, do you want me to give you like an example of like another example that mirrors the one that I gave when I was talking about the movement
Of
thing?
someone being a blitz speed above someone else, but not being able to tag them because of movements,
Like how
like
they move. Yeah,
patterns.
how they move. Yeah, yeah. So you want me to give you like an example of that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so you know in Oshawa, like Galang versus Kano, where where you know they were initially boxing, and then after that, Galang is shown to just blitz and fuck this nigga up multiple times. Like he can consistently blitz this nigga,
No, he doesn't consistently blitz him.
or he's able to blitz him. I don't like he can
No,
blitz this nigga.
he never
He doesn't
blitzes.
blitz Kano.
He like feints him and dodges and guard, but he doesn't blitz him. A blitz is like you have to be thousands of times faster than someone to blitz him. The two of them are shown to be like
Huh?
consistently. Yeah, you know you can like
Oh,
you have to be like vastly faster than someone to blitz them. Like nigga,
vastly
a regular
time
untrained
bar.
eye can match like fucking like fighter jets, my nigga. Like yes. Did you not know that?
A regular untrained eye can
It's
match
probably
fighter
close.
jets.
It's probably closer to hundreds, right? But yeah, you can see a fighter jet flying across the fucking sky.
Yeah, but I'm talking about like physically reacting to it. Like I'm not saying.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so
Here,
you have to be
I can
100.
just get it for you. Like I
Like,
can't like I don't know how you're trying to.
it's so
Of course
Bruce
you.
Lee should just be like fucking. That nigga should be dropping nukes on niggas every time he punches. That shit is not making sense to me. I'm gonna need to see like some of this 100 shit because the visual example I was gonna give you was like a rocket thing, like one rocket. Yeah, yeah. What
I
was
just
that?
want to like,
Yeah, look in
I just
general.
want to, I just want to ask for like clarification because I've been listening since like my last period of class and I've been kind of confused. So what's been agreed upon is Gaolan's punches are faster
Well,
than
how fast does an
Carlos's
object have to be to be invisible to the human eye? But I'm talking about like how fast they have to be to move, not necessarily like that nigga can't see it.
Yeah, a blitz is like you can't perceive something moving.
Well, no, can't
So,
perceive or react. I'm going by like the versus battle. Like you can't perceive or react. I don't think a blitz is just a nigga doesn't have to see it.
huh?
I don't think a blitz is a nigga doesn't have to see it. I think it means or that nigga doesn't react. Like
You
he
think
can't
if it's
physically react.
if someone doesn't react, that's what you're going off of?
Yeah, nigga, I was going off the verses. Yeah.
Then we would have to say like we would have to calculate how fast fucking Carlos is.
We
Like
don't
you can
have
just
to.
say he could be some variable degree above fucking Carlos. Like it would just be faster than Carlos.
Unquantified. Exactly. I agree that he's faster than Carlos, but my point was due to the movement, which is why I brought up the Kano example. But I didn't know you like thought
Right,
that.
but you agree that he's a blitz speed above him.
Yeah, meaning those punches that he throws, all right, can do that thing. But my point was, all right, is that Carlos's movements are due to the fact that he can't recognize his patterns. All right, he cannot throw it at where this nigga is. He can't
It
throw
says
them in the
so
right
if
direction in order to tag him. And why I brought that up specifically, all right, was to show you the parallel between that and my Kano example. Because assuming we're going off my definition of blitzing, which is a nigga can't physically react, but he can technically perceive. Kano dodging Gaolang's blows by using his formless movement would make sense in parallel to the example. It's kind of like homing rockets.
so if we're going off of versus battle wiki, like you said, a speed blitz is the act of attacking their opponent before they are capable of perceiving or reacting to them. Blitzing
Yeah.
is different than outpacing, where a character is simply faster than the other. A blitz is more like an all-around outclassing. One somewhat similar example of a blitz in real life would be a person getting shot. As the bullet moves at such a fast pace, the victim is unable to react to or even see the bullet coming at them.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know about all that other shit. I was just
Well, that's
taking
what it says. You said based
yeah.
off of versus battle wiki.
Yeah. But I was saying based off of versus battle wiki, but I was specifically talking about the perceive or react. Like all that
No,
other
if
shit.
you're saying what, you're only talking about one part of the definition for what?
No, I just read the first thing. I wasn't reading
Read
like all
the
that
whole
other.
thing. You have to. That's not my
Yeah.
fault. So that's
Okay.
not my fault that I
Hold
read it and
on.
you
So
haven't. Like,
hold on. My point is that nigga a blitz will be either striking faster than a person could perceive
but
or
that's
react.
not what people say. Like people are
There's
usually
multiple
talking about a
niggas that said that.
perception. Well, no, it's not because that's not. You were talking about versus battle wiki, right? If we're thinking most people on fucking Discord go off of versus battle wiki, and you brought up versus battle wiki, and versus battle wiki is not agreeing with what you're saying, bro. Like
Perceive or react?
you're just like you, and then it gives the example of like a bullet to a person.
Real,
Mhm.
like, I just wanted to ask. So I want to try to get like, Aaron, you asking me like, are you fine with me asking Sol a question in like an analogy sense, so I can see like what the fuck he's saying?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Sol, are you saying like, let's say there's a track, right, 100-meter dash, right, and you get from one point to one point in a specific time, right? Let's say that's Gaolang's punch speed. But then there's a maze put in between the track, like the 100-meter dash, and where you start, right?
Mhm.
Now let's say that's Carlos's movements. Are you
Yeah,
saying
you don't know.
that?
Yeah, you don't know where you have to go specifically, or he doesn't know where to punch due to the fact that
Okay,
this nigga's moving. So once he figures
so
out the
like,
pattern, it's not a matter of the speed changing. It's a matter of just knowing where he can strike, knowing where he can throw his punches to strike this nigga. Which is why I brought up like the Kano example, where his
so
formless
like,
movements are too confusing, and also brought up like the homing rocket fucking example. Like you have two
so
rockets.
like if he runs the you good. So like if he runs the maze the first time, obviously it'd be slower because he doesn't know where he's going that first. Or like he doesn't know the maze. But when he knows it, let's say he knows it off like off brain and stuff. He goes straight
Yeah,
at it same time as when he did it with the straight meter dash, right?
yeah, that's my point. So when he knows this nigga's patterns of movements, it's like I gave this example multiple times. If I see this nigga going right 4 times, and I know he's gonna go right the 5th time, I can just throw this punch to that right the 5th time. But when I was talking about it earlier, I was like, okay, Carlos can go right 4 times, but if he can't recognize it, and Carlos goes right, and he throws his shit left, it doesn't matter how fast it is because it's not in this nigga's direction to hit him.
I see what the confusion is. Okay. Let me see if I can like at least get the problem out. I don't know if this will, but I'm gonna try. But
Bro, no, bro.
essentially, what
Listen. If it doesn't make any sense to anybody who fucking hears it, that just means it doesn't make any. So I didn't interrupt you. You got to say your weird, wild shit. Everybody's sitting here trying to wrap their brain around how the fuck is he a blitz level above him, but he's moving his bobbing and weaving, blah blah blah. And everybody's coming like, wow, that's really weird. That doesn't really make any, that's really, and then you have to take 5, 10, 15 minutes to wrap your brain around it. That means it doesn't make any fucking sense. If we're having to sit here, because the thing that I said literally makes so much more sense. If you're just like, if you look at it in the context of he just changes the speed of his punches. Yeah, that literally makes everything that makes nothing contradictory. That makes everything make sense. All of the panels can coexist with each other, and it doesn't fuck up anything narratively, scaling wise, or character wise. But when you go with Sol's interpretation, you're sitting here scratching your fucking head, wondering how that could be the case. That just means one of our fucking, like, I don't understand how the simple explanation of, oh, he's just changing the speed of his punches, which is something common in the verse. I don't understand how that's not the correct explanation. I don't understand how the fuck y'all are saying Sol's makes more sense, and y'all are you can't wrap your brain around how Sol's interpretation works. How the fuck is this the case?
I'm gonna point out the problem real quick. So, from what I'm hearing, the view is different because, Sol, in your case, it seems like Carlos is already moving, and then Gaolang tries to blitz him. But since Carlos is moving, he doesn't know his movements. It just doesn't get to him. Da-da-da. But with Arrow's view of things, it's like, if that's the case, Gaolang could just punch before Carlos starts moving, and then boom, that's a blitz.
No,
I think
that's not. Nope,
No,
that's
you're
not what.
misunderstanding.
Nope. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. You know who said that the way to counter Carlos's movement before he's moving is by moving faster? You know who did say it? Ask me who said it. Fairy, ask me who said it.
Who said it?
Gaolang Wongsawat. He's arguing against some shit that's on the page. It says right here. Yes, you are. You're saying, what if Carlos is just moving before Gaolang moves? What if he moves before he moves? Then boom! I'm about to lose.
What Sol is saying.
I was just saying, like,
what is it?
An opposing stance.
Is that he was always that fast, but the only reason he couldn't blitz him beforehand was because he didn't have a grasp on his movements. So basically, the Gaolang's speed remains constant, that he always had the speed to strike faster than Carlos, but that because of Carlos's unconventional movements, Gaolang first had to read the movements, which is why he said, I can read you, when he first hits Carlos dead on.
And then I provided the preponderance of evidence with multiple statements. It doesn't, listen, if you want to disagree with the judgment, that's fine. But
make any you're saying he used pre-initiative to counter Gaolang's pre-initiative blitzing speed.
That's not what I claimed. Regardless.
So how is he moving outside of Gaolang's prediction? How is he doing it?
Giving this explanation.
How is he doing that? Because I've said multiple times on the panel, it says that's not what he's doing. He's not out predicting him. He's using speed. And you never tell me.
Let me save this. Save and then back record. So I'm gonna go ahead and say this. All right, we've gone through this a million times. I'm not gonna sit here and explain this shit over and over and over. I've already explained it. If you disagree with the judgment, that's fine. All right, we can do this. I don't know what specific way you can do this. I guess we can try to do it two different ways.
No, Greater Force just said you had to address that, so address it. Because you didn't address it. You're saying pre-initiative is being used. Yeah, you're saying pre-initiative is being used.
One more time, so I can.
Yeah, go ahead.
I understand where Arrow's disconnect is coming from here. At the beginning of the fight, Carlos dodges Gaolang's flash with pre-initiative, right? Kano states like, yeah, he's using pre-initiative, blah blah blah, inception of intent, all that stuff.
Yeah, he's detecting his inception of intent.
Exactly, and he's dodging via pre-initiative, right? So then your argument is that the speed of Gaolang's punches remains constant, and the reason he's now able to tag Carlos is because he read his movements, right?
Yeah.
But then how was Carlos able to dodge his attacks with pre-initiative to begin with when Gaolang was always fast enough to blitz them?
And that's why I argue the preponderance of evidence. All right. Yeah, you can bring up that example earlier where this nigga blitzes pre-initiative, he strikes faster, but I specifically said it's the preponderance of evidence that he's reading movements, which is why I went through all those panels one by one, and I picked out them bitches one by one, said specifically what they said, tied them to what they were saying on panel, of what Gaolang was thinking in that moment. and then specifically clarified that it's more than likely, based on the preponderance of evidence, that he is doing this.
But Gaolang specifically says in that panel he can't do that.
Okay, so basically, so what you'd argue is that there's an inconsistency here, and you would favor the reading the movements over the blitzing explanation.
Yeah, I argued it has the preponderance of evidence, which is why I dropped all those panels and picked out those specific examples. Like I can explain this shit a million times. If he doesn't get it, that's perfectly fine. He thinks it's confusing.
I get it. What you're saying just doesn't make any sense.
Okay, I disagree.
You're saying
this debate's not gonna finish. We go over this shit forever. It's 5:49, nigga. I have to go to work in a few hours, and I have to get ready in a little bit. So I understand you want to argue this shit. I understand you think it makes no sense. I understand you think the judgment is just fuck ass. I understand. I completely understand.
It's not fuck ass. No, it's not. Y'all niggas are literally not making any sense. He's telling you.
Okay, I understand.
You're saying. Okay, so I'm not finna sit here. No, I'm not finna sit here and you niggas try and convince me that that the proper judgment is a nigga is using pre-initiative to counter a pre-initiative counter. It says like that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That's fucking like that's fucking ridiculous.
Understand why I drew this conclusion, right? In both cases, we run into the problem that one side of the argument is ignored. In the Sol's case, we run, which he has basically admitted to now, we run into the issue that there kind of seems to be a disconnect between Carlos using pre-initiative to dodge initially, but then his pre-initiative being blitzed later on by Gaolang, but there being like no difference in speed, which you, I think, correctly acknowledged. However, in your point, if we go by your line of logic, the argument of Gaolang reading his movements, which is in fact mentioned several times, just gets thrown completely out the window and doesn't play any role.
No, it doesn't. Nope, no, it doesn't. All I said is, this is what I'm saying, Greater Force. There's so many assumptions that you have to make in order to support Souls. Do you remember what my claim is? Do you remember what my counterpoint is?
Yes, your counterpoint was that Gaolang is stated to
no.
Pre-initiative.
And he just changes the speed of his punches.
Yeah, exactly. That was
so if you just take all of this into account and just say Gaolang changes the speed of his punches, everything works. You can still say you can still say he reads the movements. You can, because he does this exact same thing against Kano. He changes the speed of his punches. He changes the speed of his punches consistently because we have a right straight, which was slower than his jab, now being able to go faster than his jab. It explicitly shows him changing the speed of his punches. So we have him changing the speed of his punches in that fight. And then we have him stating that he can use his speed to blitz pre-initiative. Constantly throughout the fight, it talks about, oh, these blows are this fast, but this flow is this fast. I don't understand how you gave him the speed isn't changing when it blatantly says his punches now surpass light and before they were light speed. That's what I'm saying. You have to literally spit in my eye. What's up? Yeah.
How does the reading movement part play into your argument? Because I didn't quite grasp that.
How does the reading movements part play into my argument? What do you mean?
Yeah, like
I just said it's fine.
In your versions of events where Gaolang, because he does say, he read his movements, does that like play into him tagging Carlos at all?
What do you mean? I'm fine that I never disagreed that he reads the movement. There's nothing.
The reason he's tagging him is what you're saying.
Yeah, the reason that he's tagging him is because he's punching faster. Because that's what he says. Like the two of them have I don't understand. I never disagreed. It's not that I never address it. I agreed with it. I said that's fine. He can totally read his movements. But the reason that he's tagging him isn't because he's reading his movements. It's because Gaolang throws faster punches. That's what I'm saying. The only one that makes assumptions and disagrees with everything and makes things all jumbled is Sol. I have no problem with him reading movements.
Sol's point is that the reason that Gaolang states earlier on, or rather during the fight with Carlos, is that he can read his movements, right? This is the immediate reaction to him being able to tag Carlos. Not like I increased my speed or whatever. He says, I can read you, right? This is what Sol's saying. So you see how these two are like aligned against each other in this way? So
right, but in the
later statement to say that the main reason is speed, and Sol is using the earlier statement to say that the main reason is reading his movements. So this is how the two are juxtaposed.
Listen, I got about
Right.
an
So
hour.
So I'm trying to make Aero understand why I personally agree with Sol's argument more.
so I
Okay.
don't understand how you can say so you're agreeing that's the whole problem with this because Sol agreed that he can blitz the pre-initiative. So what the fuck? That's what I'm saying, Greater Force. He agreed that he can blitz the pre-initiative, but he also has pre-initiative that can dodge these pre-initiative blitzing punches. Like you
Yeah.
can't like those are mutually exclusive.
What you're doing is you're trying to reason it together, whereas Sol is arguing, or at least as I understand it, maybe Sol can correct me if I'm understanding something wrong, but there's somewhat of a contradiction here, and that he's rationalizing that later on the reading would take precedent over what's stated later because like it's stated more often and during the fight. This is like the disconnect here.
Yeah, I stated specifically that I have the preponderance of evidence, but regardless, I only have like an hour and some time left. If you disagree with it, I'm
Arrow,
saying
we can go over.
No, I'm
we'll
not
just
finishing this debate. No,
no,
you're
I'm
tweaking,
saying
bro. I'm sorry, you're tweaking. You're not. There's no way you can convince me that that's logical. You can't. The two of those, though, like those are two mutually exclusive conclusions. You can't have them, and you can't convince me that's logical. You can't.
okay. Yeah,
I'm not going to continue this debate with Greater Force judging. Greater Force, you can't like it. So if you want to go ahead and take your nap before work or whatever, you can. I'm not continuing this debate because Greater Force, you don't make that's not making any sense. You can't have that. Like I know niggas think I just sit around debating fiction all day, but that's a logical problem. That isn't the
no, I
two
understand what you're
premises.
saying, and I'm
No,
explaining
no,
to
wait,
you.
greater faith, greater. But wait, I'm not. I don't feel like I interrupt you. So just let me finish. Those two
Sure.
premises literally don't lead to a logical conclusion. That's an illogical conclusion. The conclusion that I drew with less assumptions fits everything, and all the P's, all the premises lead to a conclusion that's logical, and his doesn't. And yet you're trying to convince me that his is the logical conclusion when it has two mutually exclusive conclusions. That can't be the case. It literally cannot be the case.
okay. So I'm fine for now if you want to with just going with your skin because you're not gonna. I already know you're not gonna agree to this shit no matter what I do.
No,
But I'm
no, no.
saying,
I'm saying you can go ahead and get your sleep. Me and Greater Force can obviously we're gonna have to hash this out because otherwise we're gonna have to find a different judge. Because
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
telling you, but I'm not trying to be. I don't want to be rude to you, Greater. I'm not trying to
No,
like
it's
kick
fine.
you off. I'm just trying to explain like it's literally logically impossible, and and I'm trying to get you to understand
yeah, I guess we can get a
why at
different
the
judge at this
Okay,
point.
so
I just want to finish.
can I make a suggestion then?
yeah,
How
absolutely.
about we adjourn now because it seems like we're not going to get anywhere like this, and I can try to maybe like write up a paragraph or something and send it to Arrow to explain my line of reasoning. And if he thinks like this is illogical or something, then that is like a logical contradiction. Maybe we can try to have someone else that both people agree on weigh in on this, okay? So that we can get a judgment that maybe comes from more than just me.
What do you need to type a paragraph out for? We're both here. Let's just have a
Because it
conversation.
seems like I'm explaining it to you when you're continuously saying like it's illogical, but to me, like it doesn't seem particularly illogical. Like I understand what
Okay.
you're saying.
So tell me how these two aren't mutually exclusive.
They
Carlos
are.
having
They are mutually exclusive.
okay, so how can you
But
have
Sol's argument is that there is a contradiction here inside of a manga, and that his interpretation should take precedence based on what's being said. In comparison, how do I explain this? He's saying that this contradiction exists, but evidence favors the conclusion that he takes, regardless.
a contradiction exists only in his. There's no problem with Gaolang being able to predict his movements in fucking in the fight with Carlos.
Hold
There's
on.
the
I'm gonna save the
what?
recording and then start a recording
Sure.
again. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, that's
I'm
fine.
just saying that because I don't want you to like stop and then it's not being
No,
recorded. What we're
no, no,
saying is
no,
not being
yeah, it's
recorded.
fine. That's fine. So
Save it, recorded again.
it's blatantly stated on the page that his punches are moving faster. And you're saying that you agree with Soul that the punches aren't faster.
Wait, Darius, didn't you record from the start?
Like it says the right straight that he threw was able to be dodged by Carlos. And then he threw a right straight so fast that it entered like it's beyond the like speed of light. It's like the divine punch.
Yeah, but this is, I think, what was agreed upon, right? Even Sol said that
It
he
wasn't
agrees with
agreed
the.
upon.
No, wait.
Okay,
Even
right.
Sol said that he agrees with the God Glow, or rather the right straight, is faster than from the jabs, right?
But he threw a regular right straight earlier that he dodged. But the God Glow is undodgeable, is what I said.
Yes, I think you both.
And I proved that the God Glow is undodgeable.
I responded to that. I said the God Glow could just be undodgeable at that moment due to Carlos's physical condition. But I'll go through the recording and
yeah, and you never elaborated on that. You never went into that. We closed on the point.
For any elaboration.
I disagreed with it. I said no, he's just faster.
Okay, so
like you didn't give any counter evidence.
Listen, we'll just go through all the recordings. At the end of the day, Grady, you can go ahead and
what is there to go over the recording about? You said one thing. I said things with evidence. You presented no
evidence. Go
evidence.
over the recording to the viewer.
Did you present? Well, watch this, Sol. Did you present evidence of his being weakened, being the reason he got hit? Yes or no?
I don't recall you contesting it for me to send evidence, but
I did. So
hold on.
How are you gonna sit here to my face and tell me you don't know if I contested it? If we talk for another Sol. I didn't interrupt you. How are you going to tell me that you don't recall if I contested it? If we didn't end the point of speed after that? If I went on for another 25 fucking minutes, bro, I'm not sure what the fuck is going on here.
You want me to answer that?
But it smells like Atlantis in here.
Yeah, we jumped to something else. Regardless,
it smells like fish hooks.
Okay, so regardless, Grader can send his little doc. I already know what the judgment is. Regardless, worst comes to worst, we'll just have to pick a different judge.
We've already been over that. I just don't understand how this shit is weird. This shit is genuinely weird as fuck to me. Because I feel like both of you niggas aren't stupid, right? I feel like both of you niggas are very intelligent. Both of you niggas come off to me as very intelligent, right?
Yeah, that means
so there's no way. So there's no way you can sit here and say to me that two premises that lead to two mutually exclusive conclusions are logical. You can't say that. Like, you literally can't sit here to my face and convince me that you think that. I don't think that either of you two think that. So I want to know what's going on here.
What do you mean what's going on?
I want to know what's going on here. Why are you two sitting here to my face, both of you two very intelligent niggas, trying to convince me that you think that it's a logical conclusion when the premises lead to two mutually exclusive conclusions? Yeah, tell me what's happening.
What's happening is we disagree. We're gonna reconvene, do the shit another time.
No. Tell me what's happening.
What do you mean what's happening?
I don't know what's happening, bro. But I need you niggas to tell me what's happening.
About what?
So do you see? Wait, I'm gonna try to ask Sol one more time.
Like, are you asking if I'm fucking greater than we ask on Sundays?
I see this from my perspective, but I want to grasp it from Sol's perspective as well, so I can fully understand how everything is coming together. Sol, do you think? I'm just gonna ask you straight up. Do you think, or rather, agree with Aero that there is a contradiction between Carlos dodging Gaolang's blows with pre-initiative, but then later being tagged when using pre-initiative, but the speed of the blows not changing?
Do I think there's a contradiction there?
Yes. With regards to not the tagging part, but the pre-initiative part specifically. The pre-initiative was used successfully against Gaolang's speed earlier on, but then was blitzed later on.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with that premise?
Yeah, so with my logic, I don't think it's contradicted. No, I think my logic allows it.
How do you reconcile that then? Because I'm understanding what Aero's saying, and I'm trying to wrap my head around this.
Okay, so let's just take it like this. All right, so let's just say I think a nigga is gonna go one way, right? Let's just say I think somebody's gonna go left.
No. Okay, we're not doing this whole spiel again. Okay, I understand that point, but it's not addressing the crux of the problem. The crux of the problem is not with him dodging the attack, but with the pre-initiative specifically, right?
Yeah.
Because at the beginning, the pre-initiative is able to work against Gaolang's level of speed, right? It's able to take effect. But then later on, we have an explicit statement that states Gaolang is striking faster than the predictions, right? So the predictions just do not work on his level of speed. So So it's not about him getting tagged, it's about the predictions working against his speed and then not working against his speed. And Aero is trying to question here how this makes sense, despite the fact that you're saying his speed remains constant.
Yeah, so when I specifically explained what this nigga was getting tagged by, I know Arrow brought up earlier like that this one of the punches entered was like faster than light, like one of Galang's punches was stated, or yeah, I agreed. I specifically stated, yeah, I said that God Blow was a punch that I think was stated to be faster than light. So when Arrow brought that up, I agreed specifically that God Blow was stated to be the punch that was faster than light. So I agreed that there were differences in the punches inherently. So hypothetically, like if a nigga threw a straight, I think that straight would stay 40 throughout, but a hook may be different. So I don't think there are any changes within the punches themselves, but the punches can differ from one another. Which is why later on, when this nigga gets hit by that right straight, I was like, okay, well, I don't care if he argues like the right straight is necessarily faster than like a different punch before, because I don't like it just doesn't matter to me. The punches themselves, though, the inherent punches themselves, I don't think the jab changes speed. I think the right straight stay constant in speed. But the punches themselves, like across the different punches, can vary in speed. I never had any issue. Regardless.
But you would say that but your point is that his jabs stay constant, right? His jabs do not change speed.
I think the punches
what
within
we're
themselves
questioning here is, what he's questioning, what I'm trying to clarify on here, right? Is, let me just post some scans so we have reference, right? To what we're talking about here. I'm just grabbing them real quick. So we have this, right? Initially. Which is Carlos dodging Gaolang's jabs, right? His flash. With explicitly using pre-initiative to detect it and then dodge, right? And then what Aero is now saying is that then how come later on this is able to happen? His jab is able to hit him, like bypass his pre-initiative, not just hit him, but move so fast he's no longer able to detect the inception of intent in time. How his question now is, how do you reconcile these two things? Equal in speed. And the point is here that your explanation doesn't that just the explanation of his movements were inconsistent, he was able to read him, doesn't suffice to explain the pre-initiative being blitzed, is what Aero is saying, as I understand it. Right, Aero?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. So yeah, he's asking basically like, okay, regardless of like the movement shit, regardless of the movement shit, at one point, this nigga's pre-initiative, he just does not get touched by Galang's speed. Alright. And then I said, okay, at this next point, this nigga has pre-initiative, he fucking does get touched by Galang's. And then I provided scans to that where he dodged later on in the fight after I said he would speed up to show that's inconsistent. Have you seen like the little panel I pulled up?
But that's reconciled by me saying that he's constantly changing the speed of his punches through the fight, and I've showed you him changing, like the speed of his punches explicitly changing. Like one's slower, like one is the speed of light, and one's massively faster than it.
So did you recall where I said, okay, he just speeds up later on in the fight? Because if I recall, you said, oh, he could just be slowing down later on in the fight and speeding up too, like he could be doing both, rather than just like, oh, he's slower on up earlier in the fight and then he just speeding up later on in the fight and he's not slowing down anymore.
I said he can change the speed of his punches.
Okay, so you think he can move them slower later on in the fight?
Yeah, I think he can change the speed of his punches.
Yeah, and I specifically had already addressed that by saying I think it's just the inherent difference in speed of the punches themselves. So this nigga dodging.
Do you see, like, now we're back, like, that's what you can't prove.
What?
You can't prove that they stay the same speed because I posted scans of them already being two different speeds.
Yeah, I'm saying that's not the case, that they're two different. And then I'm providing a preponderance of evidence as to why that would not be the case. And I'm also giving scans to show inconsistency within your case. And you're saying,
there is no inconsistency because you showing me.
Hold on, just let me finish this real quick. I'm providing inconsistency within your case by showing later on he can dodge in the fight. And you're saying, okay, well, that would just mean he's just changing speed. All right. But I asked specifically, is this nigga just slowing down later on in the fight? Like, is he just slowing down? Like, is he just making his blows go slower? Or it would just make more sense for the punches to be inherently different in speed themselves rather than this nigga just slowing down.
No, that literally, that's what's contradicting everything. Like Greater Force, do you understand how he keeps like that might be what happened. He kept saying that it's a contradiction, but you do understand that him being able to dodge the blows later on is literally explained by Gaolang varying the speed of his punches. Like the
Yes.
thing that breaks
But
the
what Sol is
narrative.
saying here, yes. Okay. So in Sol's argument, there's a inconsistency in the narrative, right? And he's saying this is the more logical conclusion to take, right? There may be an inconsistency in the narrative, but then all of these other things make sense under his conclusion. Whereas what you're saying is, in your argument, there is no inconsistency in the narrative at all, basically.
At all.
But Sol would
Nothing.
argue, but it doesn't really make sense. Because why?
Yeah, I just
why
argue
is
that I have
because why are Gaolang's blows then suddenly slow enough that Carlos can dodge them, but at other times are fast enough to blitz him?
Yeah,
You
but
understand?
it doesn't. It
Because
doesn't.
this is
You're
what I've been
right.
trying to get across.
Right,
to
but
you two.
I
Sol's
said
argument is in of itself, because what we're talking about here is a fictional verse, right? An
right, but
argument can be better while supporting an inconsistency inside of that verse if it logically aligns with other factors.
right, but I've brought up the fact that people change the speed of their punches all the time in Kengan. This isn't like a one-off thing. Like I don't like that's what I'm so fucking
Yes.
confused about. I'm
Was
like
that
people
shit said in
do
the
this.
quick
Yes, it
question?
was
Was that
said in the debate.
But
Yes,
have I
yes, it
explained
was
to
said
you
in the
now?
debate. No, I don't. I understand how in
idea
a
of why I agree
yeah, I
so with Sol.
understand baseline where you get it. But when you take into account the responses that were made and the things that he's saying, when you compare it up to logic, it doesn't make any sense. Oh, there's this inconsistency in the story where the author is saying one thing and then they're saying another thing that completely contradicts the story. Or is it more likely that this thing that the author has established beforehand in his series is now being employed once again in the same series by the same author, which is why everything makes sense under this lens that the author has set the context for?
Yeah, that's the
Sol,
point.
I
I think there's
disagree with that.
contradictions within that, and I have
How
a
the
point.
fuck would you tell me how
Regardless.
you disagree with that? Tell me how you disagree with that.
Can we bring this back one more time then? Because I think there's one argument. Like,
Yeah.
this is the argument that ends up
We
being
done
the
brought
crux
this
of it,
shit
right?
back 40 times.
No, not that. It's about now what Aero is saying about the inconsistency in speed, right?
Mhm.
Aero thinks he can justify there being an inherently there being a huge variance in characters in the speed of their blows, even the same blows or different blows, both sets.
Yep.
But there can be an innate difference, of a significant innate difference, that allows him to explain away the inconsistency you propose and say his explanation is now the more valid explanation, right? So this is
Yeah.
where the disconnect is. Depending on who can prove this part of the argument, like who has a better argument with regards to is it consistent and logical for the speed of blows to the speed of the same blows even to vary inside of one fight?
Yeah. My bad. I didn't mean
That's what
to.
it comes down to now. That's what it
Yeah,
comes
yeah.
down to.
I just think I had a preponderance, but regardless, we can just. I'm probably just gonna go back over the recording with you two
Whatever,
niggas.
bro.
Just to
Like
look over who said.
this,
Hold
like
on,
I think
listen, L. If we go over the recording and the shit matches up, the way you're saying it matches up, nigga. Like if what you're saying is true, I'm completely fine with moving on under your speed scaling. I'm not about to sit here and hold you if I think you're right. But my point is, I don't. I think my speed scaling takes the advantage. I think I have the preponderance. So regardless, like I don't really none of that shit. None of the other shit matters until we get to the point where we can just go over the recording, see who said what when, really get down to the meat of that shit. Then we can just end it there. Regardless, Greater. What about like his argument? We haven't really gone through this. What about this nigga's arguments in regards to Gaolang being equal to or above Law Long and Ohma?
He's already left the call.
I mean that's fine.
Okay, so
I just
you're
need to ask you
asking
guys
me now
whatever.
as like a okay.
Yeah, because we never even talked about that.
I think this is difficult now because both of you, I think, in the end, the problem is that, in my opinion, right, just stating my opinion, like outside of being a judge, I think there's an inherent inconsistency here, right? I think Sandrovich wrote himself into a corner and later said something which wasn't like really
I just think I have the
methodology or
preponderance of
approach to
evidence.
the
The
fight.
reading shit is said way more. I just think I have the
So the
preponderance.
problem is that your explanation, right, creates what Aero's problem is that your explanation creates an inconsistency inside of a verse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas his explanation doesn't, which is why he believes his explanation is superior.
Yeah, but I'm
Now,
saying I
I
think I have the
personally don't agree
preponderance.
with that,
Oh,
right, which
okay.
is why I sided with you.
Mm-hmm.
I personally believe that if other logical factors match up, like the consistency, for example, I don't think it's particularly logical for Gaolang to suddenly like vary his blows so massively in speed that they go from blitzing Carlos to like him being far faster than them, right? I think that seems to be less logical than maybe Sandrovich just making a mistake and there being an inconsistency. Which is why I favored your argument. But now Aero is coming back and saying, wait, Kengan characters varying the speed of the same blow, like the same jab or the same right strike, can be
I don't
way
know if he
faster
said
or
that
way
shit in the
slower
recording.
inside of the same fast. Inside of the same fight is a consistent thing that always happens in Kengan.
Yeah.
Thus, his
Did he say
explanation is
that shit
superior.
in the recording though? Like when we were actually arguing it? That's what I want to.
He said it once, I think, but it was more of a side point.
I think he said.
It comes up now because he contested for judgment, and now we're getting into the very foundations of.
Regardless.
So what it comes down to is essentially whether you can prove that it doesn't really make much sense for characters' speed to be varying this massively inside of fights, or whether he can prove, wait, this is actually a thing that happens consistently.
I think I proved it by just having a preponderance of evidence, like bringing up all the rating shit throughout all the panels, especially across all the evidence I provided.
No, that's true. I agree with you. But the point here is about the speed of the blows, right? Do you think that the speed of a character's blows, like the same punch, the same left straight, or the same left jab, for example, do you think it's happened in the past in Kengan consistently that the speed of this one particular blow has changed massively inside of one fight?
I don't most likely know, but I'm not gonna say like no for that. Like certainty no, most likely no. But my issue is like hypothetically, let's just say
that's the point.
even if he says there's an inconsistency between with what I'm saying, like in regards to the story, I still have the preponderance of evidence. So while I may have like let's just say I got like a fucking I got like there's one flash in my armor, nigga. I still got 3 fucking different sets of armor on top of that shit. Just to help further fucking protect this. I'm saying like I have the preponderance of evidence about it.
Generally, I agree with you, which is why I favored your argument, because I think it makes more sense generally, and it has more evidence backing it up. But the problem is, right, the problem we run into now is that Aero, I don't think he's going to agree to what I say, regardless of how I justify it at this point. Which kind of makes things difficult, right? Because I don't, like, from what I'm gathering, maybe, like, he would maybe disagree, but from what I'm gathering, it's going to be hard for me to even convince him of any judgment I make that favors you here.
I'm not gonna say shit. Listen, it is what it is. Regardless,
which makes it difficult for me. Like I'm not sure how to navigate this because I think I've explained my position.
Wait, could you judge? Wait, I still need to know. What do you think about Gaolang to Ohma? He stated that the statement would end up meaning that Gaolang is greater than or equal to Ohma.
No, I don't agree with that. I agree with your. That doesn't necessarily mean that. It just means they're somewhat comparable. Like it doesn't mean Lolong is superior. It doesn't mean Gaolang is superior. It just means they're probably around the same ballpark.
My argument was simply that the argument is just might, which is possibility of said thing.
Yes, I understand, and you're right. I think. I don't think that necessarily means it's superior. Not the statement in of itself. At least you'd have to provide other evidence.
Yeah, that's my point. Like if you're stating like he might.
If I accept your if we just go forward and say I accept your conclusion, then that would mean that
he isn't greater.
That Gaolang is not greater than Lolong.
He's not greater or equal than Lolong.
It would mean that it has not been proven that Gaolang is greater than Lolong.
And that regardless of the fact that Gaolang can throw blows a blitz level above Carlos, he still can't tag this nigga due to his movement.
Yes, exactly.
Because that's the point. I don't give a fuck about the speed.
So this is how it would play out, right? If I completely accept your sides of the argument, if my judgment favors you, which that was where it was going before we kind of got bogged down, then the conclusion would be that Lolong and Gaolang, that there's no proof that Gaolang is superior to Lolong in speed.
I might just say I'll go with his scaling for I don't, because are they 2 different? Would you consider Lolong to? I'm asking. Hold on. Give me one.
Long might be on par with his flash means Gaolang's flash is superior or equal to Lo Long, right?
Yes.
And that's what Sol argued, is that this
No,
necessarily
he didn't
doesn't
argue
necessarily.
anything. He didn't
No,
argue
he
anything. He
did.
said,
He
"I."
definitely
No,
did.
he said
We're fine now because
hypothetically.
we don't have a.
No, he said hypothetically. If I said, I asked him 4 times, "Are you making an
Well,
assertion?
no, hold on,
Are
hold
you?"
on. That was a
Look, no. The way,
hold
okay,
on.
look, the
My
way
bad.
I
Let me.
understand it, he definitely said
He's confused.
that
I think he's
doesn't
confused.
necessarily mean Gao Lang.
He said hypothetically, if I were to say. So he didn't make the point.
No,
I
no, no.
said, "Are you?"
hold on. I said
No,
hypothetically
what he
different. I
wanted
said
to say.
hypothetically.
Greater force,
Hold
greater
on. Let me
force. He
explain.
literally
Let me
said,
explain my shit.
Arrow literally said, you literally said, he asked, "Are you making an assertion?" You said, "No, I'm not making an assertion," twice at the very beginning of the debate.
That's not what I said. Hold on. Let me clarify.
That is.
Hold on. Let me clarify. I specifically said, hypothetically, if I were to argue that Ohma's faster than Gao Lang, this would not provide contention to it because this statement itself does not explicitly or inherently indicate the superiority or the equalness of Gao Lang. It's just stating that
And
it's
I asked if
possible.
you're making an assertion. Are you saying that isn't the case? And you said no. You said hypothetical. You can't
I said hypothetically in reference to arguing
you
Ohma's
can't make
bias.
like an imaginary friend argument and expect me to. Let me calm down, bro. You can't. Hold on.
This is what
Understand the
Power
problem
never
again. There's
left.
another
Appear to
You
solution
black
can't.
fellas.
here.
You can't make a hypothetical what if argument and tell me to counter. If you
Yeah.
don't make an assertion, I don't have the need to counter. If you're not making a counterclaim, I don't have the need to counter.
True.
If I say I'm making this claim, this is what this means. Do you disagree? And you say no, I don't have to counter anything. I don't have to address that.
Okay. So I'm saying I did say I was countering. You asked me verbatim. You're like, "Are you countering?" And I was like, "Yeah, let me speak. I'm countering." Point. And then I explained how the statement you used to substantiate your claim does not necessarily substantiate your claim, and it's not an indication of what you're claiming it indicates. All right. When I brought up the hypothetical was to Ohma being higher. So I said, if hypothetically, if I wanted to assert that Ohma was higher than Gallon in speed, this
But
statement
you
would
didn't
not
assert it. You didn't assert anything to counter my claim.
Exactly, because my argument wasn't that.
Please.
Yeah.
The point here is, I think you two misunderstood what the other was saying again. So what Sol was trying to say is that he wasn't making the claim that Lo Long is necessarily faster or equal to Gao Lang, but he was making this claim that just because Gao Lang states that Lo Long might be on par with his flash, that doesn't necessarily mean that Gao Lang is faster or equal to Lo Long.
No, he said he's not
himself is
making
not
any
making
counterclaim. I asked him specifically if he's making a counterclaim.
We don't ever.
I don't understand. Like this is why this is like some of the most like. I'm trying to stay calm, but y'all, I feel like y'all niggas are setting me up, bro. This feels weird. This feels weird as fuck. I'm not saying that you are. I'm not saying that you are, and I'm being calm and I'm being real chill about this whole thing.
I
I'm
appreciate
not yelling.
bro.
I'm trying to get better about it. But the way that this is being presented to me, with all this shit's like hypothetical and what if and blah 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 blah, and I'm telling you that I specifically asked you if you're going against my point.
Yeah, and I said
you
yes.
told me no. And then after you said all that hypothetical what if I were to say blah blah, I said, "Are you sorry? Do you disagree?" And you said no.
Yeah, you misunderstood each other. That's a problem here.
It's not a misunderstanding. I'm specifically like if I say selling free fried turkey legs inside 345 and you come in at 848 asking for a double cheeseburger, you can't. It's just not. That's not what I said.
Yeah, and I'm saying that the hypothetical I proposed was simply giving an example of. Look for it.
This is where recording is good. Because this comes down to very specific wording.